Good day, fish tankers. Colony breeding, what is that exactly? That's when you put some fish, males and females of a single species or sometimes even of several species together in an aquarium. You let nature take its course and soon you have some babies surviving and you develop these generations of fish, sort of like a self-sustaining community. If you want to hear what that's about, stick around. First things first, you've got to decide on a species. Thanks again for Grace Bromfield who gave me the idea. And an easy selection would be live bearers like these guppies, because they give birth to live young, as the name says, and those have a much better chance of survival. Here you see some nice looking male guppies. That is an easier choice for beginners. And there's other live bearers as well, like you have platies. That's also a nice choice. Guppies and platies don't require big tanks, or not huge tanks anyway. You can have mollies. It's another interesting live bearer. Just make sure they've got some hard alkaline water. And you can also try your hand at swordtails. These will of course need a bigger aquarium. And then the other thing that you must look out for is you have to have more females than males. Especially if it's live bearers, I would say 3 females to every male, because otherwise the males run the females ragged. Now bigger is better. Get as bigger an aquarium as you can. Some fish need bigger tanks, some you can get away with smaller tanks. There's my 30 gallon, and that will also work. But tiny tanks are not going to work. And then you've got to choose your tank mates wisely. My celestial Paul Daniels had fry that survived, but they didn't survive long to adulthood, because this betta was a very effective predator and just kept picking anything that hatched off eggs that survived being eaten. So that wasn't a good idea. Now you've got to provide plenty of cover, and that cover is usually in the form of plants. I've got this dense forest of Vallisneria in both of these tanks that I've got in breeding, and that's hiding space for some of the fry that hatch so that they don't get eaten by the bigger fish and by the parents. You can see how those emperor tetras like to hang out in these forests of Vallisneria. And there you see a youngster. If you look between the strands of Vallisneria hiding out, you can see it's still small if you compare it to the white cloud swimming in front here. Another plant that works well, or it's sort of something in between, not quite a plant, it's a bladderwort, and that's Soeswassertang. This clump of Soeswassertang, it's spawning grounds for both my diamond tetras and cherry bobs, and there you see some baby diamond tetras popping out. Then another thing that works well for spawning is of course Java moss. You see the emperor tetras going about their business there, and it goes without saying you must maintain excellent water quality, very low nitrates and no nitrite or ammonia, and feed the fish that the fry will like, even if you don't see any fry yet. I use some frozen foods, and I also use some frozen cyclops. Don't feed that much, just once a day, but once a week I chuck in some frozen cyclops, some flake, some of them you crush up to small pieces, and also some small granulate. The adults will eat it, but it kind of, my theory is it lets them feel there'll be food for the fry, and then they start breeding. Here we can look at my 75 gallonish community tank, and that's where these emperor tetras just started breeding. None of these colonies that are breeding in my tank were ever intentional, but these were the 7 secrets that I inadvertently followed if I backtracked what I did. And there you see the male, there's a female, and there's even a smaller male. You see here various sizes of emperor tetras. I don't even know how many there are. I've counted 12 adults, and then there's some juveniles. I think that's the original male that I put in there it was about 6 years ago. 6 years, maybe a bit more. So that's what the oldest one of them are. And there you see a tiny little fry. I've zoomed in on it now, but there you see size comparison to a big one. And there's the female going past again underneath, and there you see the fry or the juvenile in the background. So they lay hundreds of eggs, all these egg layers that I colony breed here. And most of those eggs just get eaten, so from those eggs a few fry survive, some of them get eaten, and then you see the strongest survivors just popping out. You can see that juvenile, how he compares in size to the Paul gourami. He's still much smaller. And certain fish are resilient enough and the youngsters are tenacious enough to escape and some to survive. So you see there's plenty of other fish in this tank, but they don't colony breed. Here we are in a 30-gallon tank. I just call it a 29-gallon. And here popped up first a tiny little cherry barb and then a tiny little diamond tetra. So there's constantly, not constantly, but every now and then you can see they're different sizes. The diamond tetras as well as the cherry barbs. You see there at the back, there's just the smaller ones there in between the Vallisneria. So there's generations of cherry barbs and diamond tetras in this tank. And you'll see the rosy tetras, nothing with them. They don't colony breed, their fry's not tough enough or resourceful enough to hide. You can see that male cherry barb is herding the females into that Soeswasser tank, chasing away the younger males. And every now and then, if I feed them, you'll see tiny ones in among the plants. And there's your diamond tetras. I think those were, that big male was original. That was born in the tank. And then there's a smaller one also. Today when I did a water change, I saw this tiny little fry popping up. That's a tiny little one. So I noticed a new one today popping up. So there you go with him. This is not a breeding method that you want to do if you want to produce fish to sell and breeding for profit. You're not going to have a high enough yield for that. But it's a nice way if you just want to see nature at work and see little fish growing up in your tank, and it becomes self-sustaining. You don't really have to buy any new fish this way. There you see a tiny cherry barb. Well, that's it from me. Let me know in the comment section, have you colony bred any fish in your home aquarium? I would be interested to know. And please remember to subscribe. And until I see you again, take good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.